Hello everybody. Big news yesterday. A judge overturned Brendan Dassey's murder conviction. He may be out in as little as 90 days. So I know a lot of you are out there rejoicing, and that's awesome. I'm here today with my second Brendan Dassey video. Basically I'm going over the February 27th, 2006 and March 1st, 2006 interrogations of Brendan. While I was researching this video, I came across Redditor TikTok Manitowoc's Reddit post, and I thought it showed more of the poor decision making by law enforcement in this investigation, so I included it. And while I was researching that, I found a very interesting discrepancy between the March 1st video of the interrogation and the March 1st transcripts of the interrogation. But we'll get to that a little bit later. We're going to start out with the opening of the February 27th interrogation, where they're essentially telling Brendan that they don't want to get all up on him and everything like was done before. For instance, on November 6th of 2005, which was one day after the RAV4 was found, if any of you remember, Officer O'Neill of Marinette really got all over Brendan. Anyways, they're trying to say that they're not trying to do that, that they just want to let him talk and give him an opportunity to speak today. And that's great, right? And now here we are, not even one page later, and they're already saying no and basically telling Brendan what they think. It's not even like they waited 20 or 10 pages, or some amount of time. No, it's right away. They basically started telling him what happened and disagreeing with him instead of just letting him talk as they said they wanted him to do. I'm just going to kind of scroll through an example here of them letting Brendan talk, I brought this up in my last video, the November 6th, 2005 traffic stop interrogation of Brendan. In there we find out that Brendan's girlfriend had just broken up with him, and he kind of was broken up about that. And Deputy O'Neill came at him pretty hard. Anyways, I think we can tell from this next part of the interrogation that Brendan's still not, he's still kind of feeling bad because he doesn't have a girlfriend and stuff. And the thing is that that's a damn good reason for a teenager to be sullen, fellas. This part shows more example of Fassbender and Uyghur letting Brendan talk, right? Also, I'd like to say about this clip is that by the time that Stephen got to Crivets, he knew the frame was on. I'm sure he was worried. That's pretty much a given. It's not paranoia when it's happened before. So, that's kind of the way that goes, you know. Uh, This is where we begin with the tie-in with TikTok Manitowoc's Reddit post. In this next bit of transcripts, we see Brendan telling investigators that Stephen put a knife underneath one of the seats, in between the seats and underneath them. Also interesting is Fassbender begins to ask a question, and he gets cut off by investigator Wiegert, who says we can't talk about that. It's kind of interesting. In this next bit of transcripts here, Brendan says that Stephen stabbed Teresa in the RAV4, and that he then stashed the knife underneath one of the seats. This will be very important in coming up. This next part of the transcripts will show Brendan talking about how Stephen got the cut on his finger by one of Teresa's fingernails during a struggle with her. This is actually the second story that Brendan has told about how Stephen got that cut. The first story he told was that Stephen was working on the Monte Carlo, and he was trying to pry something, I guess, and he slipped, and I guess the screwdriver caught his finger and cut his finger, from what I understand. Or something along those lines, but it was with the Monte Carlo and not with Teresa. So, vastly different stories. So, this is story number 2. Bill Tyson's report, February 27th. At approximately 1500 hours, and by approximately he means after 1500 hours, because Brendan's interview is taking place between 1520 and 1600 hours, Hoggle, Tyson, Baldwin, and a couple other deputies entered the storage unit where Teresa's RAV4 was being held. They went into the RAV4, searched underneath the seats for a knife. They didn't find one. Of course they didn't. Did they honestly think the crime lab would have missed a knife underneath one of the seats, or the blood left behind on the carpet by a knife? It's ridiculous. The fact that they even acted on the information they got from Brendan on this is kind of laughable. Also keep in mind that this first entry into the RAV4 was not in the presence of ADA Frolic. Okay, so now on February 28th, they actually go and pull the RAV4 out of storage and tow it to a place called the Highway Shop. At the Highway Shop, they meet up with ADA Frolic. Deputy Dedring then goes, he removes the bench seat portions of the front seats, and he cuts out the carpet directly below the bench portion of the seats, and he cuts out the insulation directly below the bench portion of the seats. And he finds a Band-Aid. Now, this is odd, because how on earth would the crime lab have missed this Band-Aid? It's the same thing, as how they could have missed a knife. So you're left wondering what's going on here, because if they were in, it leads me to believe that when they went in the day before, it wasn't proper procedure, because they were able to just go into the storage unit and search the RAV4 right there. But on this day, when they're going to be observed by ADA Frolic, they have towed the RAV4 out of storage to this place called the Highway Shop, and this all is being done there under the supervision of ADA Frolic. Now, think about it for a second. If they were there on the 27th and they searched and they didn't find anything, why did they still set up the meeting the next day with ADA Frolic, unless they planned to find something? And that, I think, is what's going on here, because otherwise they were just inviting her over for their own embarrassment. Okay, so we now move into the March 1st interrogation of Brendan. Continuing on in the TikTok Manitowoc's Reddit thread. This next segment is where Brendan gives the third story for how Stephen got the cut on his finger. And this time he got it underneath the hood. Okay. Pay real close attention to this next piece of transcripts, because it starts out where they ask Brendan, was Stephen bleeding? And he talks about the finger again. Then at the top of page 606 of the CASO report, there's a comment from Brendan right there where he says that Stephen went into the bathroom and got a Band-Aid and then went to go get the bleach. Okay? Then it goes down further and it talks about he wanted to crush the car and the sooner the better or whatever. So I just want you to keep in mind that you see right there, you see a comment where it says Brendan basically says that Stephen went into the bathroom and got a Band-Aid and then went to go get the bleach. Okay, so now we're going to see the same segment of the interview, but it's going to be the video instead of the transcripts. Pay attention and look for that mention of Stephen going to the bathroom, getting a Band-Aid, and then going to get the bleach.
No.
Was Stephen bleeding?
On his fingers, that's it.
Did Stephen?
That he was gonna crush it. Sooner, he said the sooner the better.
You like what? What kind?
Coke.
Coke? Okay. Before we get that, does Evan told you that someone else knows?
Not that I know of.
What about Chuck? Take a little break. Yeah, take a breath.
Alright, so here we go. Upon Brendan's mention / non-mention of the Band-Aid, a break is declared. No doubt they want to go discuss the Band-Aid situation. So what we've got is, number one, on February 27th interview, Brendan states that Stephen cut his finger while he was struggling with Teresa, and it was from one of her fingernails. Okay. Now, during this interview, basically, Sheriff Poggle and some other deputies go over to the RAV4 storage unit, open it up, get into the RAV4, search underneath the seats, and they don't find anything. They're searching for a knife that Brendan said would be there, or that Stephen put there. But it wasn't there. And it's not like the crime lab would have missed it. But anyways, so they lock it back up. Number 3, February 28th, they go back to the storage unit, they get a flatbed, they tow the RAV4 over to a place called the Highway Shop, where ADA Fraulich is waiting, and they do another search. They find a Band-Aid. Okay, it's odd that they would find a Band-Aid, and how would the crime lab have possibly missed it? But you know, they find a Band-Aid, so okay. Number 4, we move on to the March 1st interview of Brendan. We now get a third story of how the cut on Stephen's finger got there, and that is that Stephen got it while under the hood. Okay. Well, I thought it was from Teresa Hallback's fingernail. You know, whatever. Okay, so we got another story there. This all goes to show the general inconsistency of Brendan's information, yet they acted on Brendan's information pretty assuredly, like, you know, pretty much like if they didn't find what they wanted, they were going to make it what they wanted, you know, and it almost seems like that's what they were trying to do, because when you look at this, seriously, number 5, you look at this, and clearly, when you watch that video, there is no mention of that Band-Aid. There is no mention of it, but when you look at those transcripts, it's there. When you see those transcripts, that statement is there. It says that Brendan said that, but it doesn't happen in the video. So that is a huge discrepancy for me, and you know, I'd like to see what other people think about it. This next clip, Wiegert and Fassbender are really going at Brendan. Brendan talks about a rape, but Wiegert points out a big reason why Brendan really isn't credible in this. He doesn't have any credibility. They asked him to tell them how Stephen described the rape. upon answering, Wiegert says to Brendan, that's not how Stephen talks, Brendan. To this I say, Wiegert, that's because Stephen never said it, and Brendan is guessing.
Vamp.
Damn. Could you see flash or just the shirt?
A little bit of flash.
How many times did he say he stabbed her?
Once.
What else did he do to her? We already know, be honest.
We've got enough of her to know some things that happened to her. So tell us the truth.
What else did he do to her?
Raped her.
Did he tell you that?
Tell us about that. And where he did it.
I don't know where he did it, but
Okay.
What did he say he did in his words? What did he tell you? You can swear, you can use any language you want. Tell us exactly what he told you he did to her.
that he ripped off her clothes, and she refused, and she tried to get away, but he was too strong for her, and he did it.
He did what?
Raped her.
What did he say? Did he use those words?
Are you sure? Because he does not use the words he uses. Are you? If you're sure, that's okay.
Yeah.
And where did that happen?
So, to sum up, basically, Brendan's confession always had a severe lack of credibility. For that reason alone, in a lot of ways, it should have been, thrown out. Also, the whole situation with the investigators going back into the RAV4 to look for this knife and coming up with a band-aid is all extremely suspect. So I'll let you guys make your own judgment. I think I've given you all the transcripts and stuff that you would need to make the decision on your own. So anyways, so everybody be happy. It's really a great, yesterday was a great day. Getting Brendan's conviction overturned and potentially being able to see him, out of jail possibly within the next 90 days is an awesome prospect. I'd like to give another shout out to TikTok Manitowoc. Great job on that Reddit post. That was stellar. And I would just like to ask that if you're watching this video to consider hitting subscribe down below. Thank you very much.